Welcome to the Focal Insights Podcast Founder Hour edition, hosted by co-founder Joe Pollock. Joe has been in the e-commerce industry for over 25 years. He grew and bootstrapped his own startup to a successful exit. Founder Hour episodes go behind the scenes to learn how some of the best e-commerce brands were founded, grown, and operated straight from the founders themselves. Founder Hour is brought to you by Focal Software, a new generation ERP and operation suite for e-commerce brands and third-party marketplace sellers. Focal was built with SMB brands and marketplace sellers in mind to help them grow profitably. Now let's welcome our host, Joe Pollock.
Hello and welcome to the Focal E-commerce Insights Podcast, where we chat with e-commerce entrepreneurs about business, selling online, and how to overcome challenges for success. Joining us today is Dr. Brandy Archie. Dr. Brandy is the founder of Ask SAMIE, which she started in 2023. Prior to Ask SAMIE, she founded Accessible Living, a service-based business that sends occupational therapists to help older adults make their homes accessible. Dr. Brandy received her doctorate in occupational therapy from Creighton University and has over 16 years of experience in home health and elder-focused practice settings. In 2023, she founded Ask SAMIE, a curated digital marketplace to make aging in place possible for anyone. Ask SAMIE went from a couple $1,000 in sales revenue last year to over $100,000 this year and growing using a variety of creative strategies. Dr. Brandy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, of course. When I talk to business owners, I like to start with hearing their story. So one thing's always very consistent, and that is that there was a urge or need to go out on your own and create your own business. And those are always fascinating stories. So why don't we start off by you just telling us how you got started, how you made that jump from, I assume you were working a 9 to 5 or similar, and then decided to go out on your own and take a chance at that, and tell us how you got from there to here.
Yeah, so I'm an occupational therapist by training. So I've spent the majority of my career in a clinical setting and in a hospital or seeing people in their homes. And our goal as OTs is to help make sure people can be safe and independent doing their everyday things. So if you're a kid, that's like learning how to write, even though you got cerebral palsy. And if you're an older adult, that's like making sure that you can get back to getting yourself dressed and in the shower after you have a knee replacement. So it looks different for everybody, but the goal is the same, help you be independent. And so in my practice, it couldn't all be fixed like in the clinic setting, frankly. I usually work with older adults, and while we can rehabilitate the body, a lot of times there's these disease processes that are not going to get better. And so if I can't make your body better, then I need to change the environment around you in order to help you do those things you need to do every day. And the healthcare system is not set up for that. It's set up to treat your body, but not treat your environment. And so I got frustrated with not being able to get to the root cause of the problems and really help people get what they needed, because it was outside of what we could do as healthcare professionals. And so that kind of prompted me to do it as my own business and move outside of the medical model and come up with a way. So I didn't go straight to e-commerce. I actually started a private practice first. And I was like, listen, I know how to do this, and I could just show up at their house. That's what we need to do, and figure out what the problems are, and figure out like what size ramp do you need, and who can install these grab bars, and what can you do to make this bed easier to get in and out of. And that was cool. And we grew that. But it's also hard to drive all over the place. And I was only able to see as many people as we were able to reach by driving. And that didn't feel great, because there's people just outside of our city limits that wasn't economical for us to get to. So it made me think about another way to duplicate ourselves and get to more people. And that's digital. That's e-commerce. So we ended up starting Ask SAMIE with the purpose in mind to have a digital place where you would normally have an occupational therapist come see you, and replicate that process online from start to finish, figuring out what you need, learning about it, and then buying it. It's our website mashed up with a Shopify platform on the back end for the equipment, so that you really can do all of this by yourself if you're willing to go through the process. So that's how we got to here.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And it sounds like a big part of it is you mentioned the the term environment, and it seems to me that even just the desire for people to go into a clinical setting is an obstacle. So if you can say,
Mm,
hey, stay at home where you're comfortable, we'll come to you and help you out. And then it sounds like, so you've got that personable approach. And then for any products that they need, you're helping on that side by just allowing them to go online. So you consult with them. Why don't you tell me about how that works? So you
yeah.
consult and then they go get what they need and then you help them with it.
Yeah. So in our Sam, we were trying to duplicate ourselves. I had a team of OTs, we would go out. Now we're trying to make that happen online. So there's a couple of ways to do it. You can use our AI and just ask your question, which we've trained it with our OT knowledge, and get the answers you need, and then buy the products or connect with the services or use the resources. This is all stuff we would normally tell you in person, but now you can just automatically do it. Or if you need a little more help, you can use our quiz tool and answer some questions, because sometimes you don't even know what you need. You just know you have a problem. So you just tell us what the problems are and then we'll give you solutions. Or if you still want to talk to an OT, which of course we love, you can schedule a virtual assessment and then we can walk you through all that and do the assessment together and then get you that right set of services, resources, and equipment. And either way, any of those three ways, you get your information. The output is still the same because we're going to share with you all of those resources and equipment in a digital format from our website, because that's the piece that was missing. Like I could tell people in the hospital, you could use this and this, but I couldn't get that equipment for them. It's not covered by insurance. So it was just like handing them pieces of paper or sending them links to Amazon, and it was all very disparate. So now we put all that into one nice and easy flow package so that we can make a stressful time a little easier.
Yeah, it's an interesting hybrid model of e-commerce where it's a little bit brick and mortar, a little bit delivery and being right there with them, and a little bit of e-commerce. So it's an interesting, very
Yep,
unique blend.
exactly. I
So
like to think of it as service plus e-commerce.
yeah, I like it. So so it sounds like you probably didn't have a blueprint for this. So if you were getting into this on your own, you invented this concept. What challenges did you face? Or maybe it was just received very well and it was fairly easy, but it's usually not. So what challenge did you face? What did you learn about yourself and how did you overcome some of those challenges getting this rolling?
I think the first challenge is that I'm an occupational therapist, not a developer. And so while I know that these individual tech tools exist, I didn't know how to make them work for what I was trying to do. So it took a lot of learning, frankly, because I started out by myself doing it before I had any technical help, and just like asking the right, I don't know. I don't even know the right questions to ask, if I'm being honest. It was just like asking people lots of questions and finding ways to get the information I needed to try to build something so I could show somebody what I was trying to create and it wasn't just in my brain. And then once we got that into digital form and it looked horrible, but it worked,
And
then
this
we
is
could like, this
your
is our
website
website.
you're referring to, right? Okay, so you
To
started
like
there.
to marry the service part with the e-commerce part. We have a Shopify backend, and Shopify is pretty easy to use after you learn how to use it. I had no experience with it, but once I used it, there's a lot of functionality. But then the front part, the website part, had to connect to that and do the service part that we were looking for. So the problem was just like putting all those pieces together and understanding what pieces I needed to make the thing I had in my brain.
Yeah, and then once you got the website squared away, that, like we said, there's really multiple parts to your model. What other challenges did you face? Say
Yeah,
combining the two or making it all come together at someone's house, basically, right?
yeah, I think getting so I had experience doing this kind of work, but not in this way. And so we still needed to get feedback from people using the product in this way and then edit that. And so getting people to see and know and use it and give us feedback, I think was our next challenge. so that we can make sure that we weren't losing people. Because, okay, for example, in person, if I see I'm losing you, I can see that you're not paying attention. You're like wanting me to go. You're asking lots of questions. Like I'm clearly not connecting with you. But if you're online and you come to my website and it doesn't make sense to you, you're just going to bounce. And so I'm not going to get any feedback really, except for the fact that my bounce rate is really high. And so getting that feedback in order to make it work, and now all those little A/B tests was the next big challenge, and something we're always working on. But yeah, that I think that's like the next thing. And then after that is like getting people to know about it. After we felt like it worked really well, then it's okay, now we need to get people to know about it and use it. And so that's like the next big hurdle.
The marketing part. Yeah. And
Hmm.
because we talked early on that you created a bit of a model that didn't exist before. So it's hard, even when there's a need out there and you know it and people know it, they don't even know what to call
Yeah,
it. Search for.
exactly. So our way of dealing with this, and I can't say if it's right or wrong, it's helped us grow so far, is to use partners. And because we're in this intersection of in-person service plus online purchasing, we're connecting with other people that connect at that same intersection. If you're trying to help an older adult stay living at home, they might have come through the hospital system and worked with a therapist. So we try to reach out to therapists so they know it's a resource. If you person is already at home and you need more help, you might be hiring an in-home care service. And that hands-on help is helpful, but you might also still need a shower chair or a ramp or something to help you be safe there. So we connect with caregiving services and we partner with them so they'll share what our tool is. And then we did a ton of work on SEO. And that way, people who are searching for questions that we have answers to, people would end up finding Ask Sammy. And so that's worked pretty well too.
Yeah. And you have to learn those keywords and figure out what people are actually searching for to find you.
Yes, that was one of the very first things we invested actual effort and money into having an expert do so that we could, because it takes time to build up. And so as we were doing all this tweaking to the site, we were like, at least let's get some SEO working in our behalf. And so that really worked well because about half of our revenue comes from unpaid organic search.
Yeah. Yeah. That stuff does take a while to ramp up, even in the best case. So it's always better to start sooner than later. Those are a few of the challenges that you had. It sounds like you have had some wins and some success there. Maybe one of them partnering with people that maybe you knew previously, or you just introduce yourself and then they can recommend you. What other wins have you had, or things that went surprisingly well for you? Anything along those lines?
Yeah, I think I talked about this just a second ago, but I think the SEO actually went a lot better than I thought it was going to. When you buy clothes and a lot of consumer goods online, there's lots of good marketing about it. There's lots of descriptions, there's lots of sizing and information. And so when you search, everybody's listings look great because they know what to do. In the medical world, because it's fairly new, if you think about the whole course of selling equipment, it's fairly new that we're buying these things online. It used to be that only professionals were buying these kinds of things online and then reselling them or giving them to their clients. And so a lot of product descriptions are horrible for medical equipment and like it doesn't tell you hardly anything. And so, because we knew that the consumer, the family caregiver, the person who doesn't know much about this was going to be the one shopping, we put a ton of information on the product pages. And that was just how we wanted them to experience the website. I wasn't even thinking about SEO. I was just thinking about giving them the information they needed. And that really helped our SEO tick up because we were answering a lot of questions within those product descriptions that other sellers weren't doing.
Yeah, and I think that's a good illustration of when there's a need for something out there and you provide it, then it just seems to work. People were probably looking to buy these things online, but it wasn't very easy to do. And then you made that quite a bit easier.
I think that's definitely fair.
Yeah. All right. When we talk about these challenges and solving problems, a lot of times there's some technology involved. You've already mentioned that you use Shopify and
Hmm.
you became an expert at Shopify with
I
some
don't know
help.
if I'm an expert, but I definitely know how to use it now.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. What other tools have you found for your business in general, operations, or on the e-commerce side that have been helpful for you?
Yeah, we create a lot of content in order to reach the people that we're trying to reach. One, because it's educational and that's part of what we're doing anyway. That's part of the service that we're doing. And so that takes time. And so as these AI tools keep coming out, we incorporate a lot of it into the workflow of being able to create that content in order to drive more sales. And this is ever evolving, but I try to stay plugged into a couple of newsletters that share AI tools as they come out. Cliff's Notes is a great one. And every week he's talking about AI topics, and there's a specific section that says like all the newest AI tools, and they catalogs it all on his website and you can access it. So I love that. And I found many tools there. And then I also am using Notebook LM, which is free. It's like ChatGPT, but it works from your sources that you upload and it stays a little bit more on the rails. ChatGPT can pull from a lot of different places and it might not be accurate. And so for our business, it's important, it's really important that we're pretty accurate about what we're talking about. And so Notebook LM has been helping us create content quickly, but is still like in our voice and also very accurate to where it comes from and clinically accurate. So I think the AI tools have been really helpful in
Yeah. So you found
streamlining what we do. Yeah,
one that's more of like a niche, a way to make AI into a niche that stays focused on what you're dealing with.
exactly.
AI is a very popular topic these days. We're seeing it everywhere, and I think a lot of people are just starting to dip their toe into it to check it out. But it sounds like you're a pretty heavy user. Is there anything that were real big surprises when you got into that? Did you have real high expectations or low expectations? And were you surprised? Because a lot of people, when they dig into it, they're pretty shocked at how well those things work.
Yeah, I actually was pretty surprised. Like when I first started using ChatGPT, I thought I was going to have to train it really well on OT, occupational therapy wording and lingo, but there's so much online already on it that it pulled pretty decent answers to start with. And seeing how powerful that was, I used it right away after it came out in order to try to find ways to make what we were doing better, whether it's product descriptions or what we were going to record for video content or post on socials or blogging. We do a lot of blogging. Using ChatGPT and Notebook LM have really helped to do that a lot more easily. And I'm just surprised at how good it works. So if it works well, there's no reason not to use it.
Yeah, and I think that with those tools, the main benefit is just time. It's just saving you a lot of time
Yeah.
and a lot of you still have to read it, proof it,
Yes.
edit it, but it does a lot of the core building of it for you.
The heavy lifting definitely needs your own eye because whatever you're selling or doing is unique to what you're doing. That's why you're doing it, right? And so you should surely edit it because it can definitely sound AI and you can easily not read it, but it does the heavy lifting for you so that then you can just smooth it out and have it have the feel that your brand needs to have.
Yeah. Okay, that brings us up to where you're at today. Let's talk a little bit about the future and where we think that's going. The current global e-commerce market is about $6 trillion in sales. And in the next couple of years, it's expected to go to 8 trillion. So that's absolutely massive increase, which means a lot of things are going to change. So what are your thoughts on the future of e-commerce or your business? And what are your plans to stay on top of it or to take advantage of that kind of demand as it continues to come online?
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. One thing that people bring up a lot when I talk about what our business does is our older adults going to actually buy these things online. And while the primary person who buys on our site ends up being the adult caregiver, somebody caring for their 80-year-old mother, many more people are using it at whatever age. And so I think part of the reason that it's expected to grow, like the e-commerce market is expected to grow, is because more people who are not currently spending online are getting more familiar and comfortable with technology and are going to do. And that's great for us because we want the spouses to be looking for solutions and find online, the person who needs it to find it online. And it makes it convenient because oftentimes they have limitations in being able to get out to a store to be able to find the thing. And so our goal is to continue to make the site very accessible and user friendly. So a person who's non-native to tech is gonna still find it just as easy to use as using Facebook to see their grandkids' pictures and using Google to find some service provider in their area. And so we're just working on continually simplifying it, even though there's built in the back end. For example, your site can be searched with a search box. Most people's site has one. We're switching our search box to an AI. So instead of feeling like you're talking to AI, it just feels like a search box. It's just a lot better. It gives you a lot more comprehensive solutions, but it's still very easy to use.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting topic when you talk about technology is, I guess, generational demographics.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone at some point will be familiar with these technologies because the people that are younger now are familiar with it, and
Right.
they're going to be older at some point. So
Right.
the demographic is moving in your direction, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
that with making everything more available online. I think right now, 20% of all online purchases or all retail purchases, 20% are online. And that's just going to continue to grow because
Grow.
when you think about going from 6 trillion to 8 trillion, 20% sounds low, but it's still it's a massive number. So yeah, demographics change and there's going to be a lot of online shopping and everything, services and products will be get online.
And I think that people expect it more too. So like the person who's maybe 60 today and doesn't necessarily need what we have, they're going to be 75 in 15 years and they're already used to using their phone to buy things on Amazon or wherever and to using apps to solve problems. And so our goal is to continue to be positioned to be the way to solve their problems as they get older in a way that they're familiar with, which is buying it online or accessing a person virtually. How many people have had a telehealth visit with a provider, right? And what if you can continue that process of getting your health care and health consultation online, but then also get the solutions online too. And so that's what our goal is to while we might be a little ahead of the game right now, it's only moving faster this way.
Yeah, pretty much everything you need is going to be on your phone.
Mm.
It's pretty close to that, at this
It's
point,
pretty
right?
close.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, part of what we talk about too is when we talk about the future is the people that are going to be getting into selling online in the future. So not just from a technical e-commerce standpoint, but from a business standpoint, do you have any tips for anyone that's looking to get into starting their own business or whether it's traditional business, brick and mortar, or e-commerce?
Yeah, I think the thing that's been the most useful to me is community of entrepreneurship in my city. And so while you can sell anything from anywhere, what you should do is also be connected with other people um, who are doing entrepreneurial things, whether that's selling in e-commerce or that's in the niche that you are selling towards or thinking about going into, because all of those connections that were made have led to me having a co-founder, led to us getting funding, led to us having some of our first customers and learning the things I needed to learn to go from a brick and mortar business to an online business. We couldn't have gotten to the place that we are today if it wasn't for the ecosystem around me and taking the effort to show up to events that I thought were going to be useful and learning things from classes and like meeting people. I would say, even if you're not ready to do this, and even if you don't want to do it full time, just start talking to people about it and showing up at the places where other people like you are at.
Yeah, and similar to that is when you talk about education of the market. I know that you do some of that, and that's really the purpose of this podcast too, is as we're growing more and more in e-commerce, it's just to educate and help lift up this whole industry. And I know you do some of that too. What other things have you found that have been helpful for you is from an educational standpoint? And is it directly to educating your end client, or is it educating partners, or both?
Oh, okay. I'm going to take this in two different directions.
Okay.
So, one thing that's been really helpful for my own education has been using the Small Business Development Center. And so, every community has one, and most of their services are free. And you can learn the things you need to learn, even like classes on QuickBooks or how to how to sell online. Like, use a Small Business Development Center. And then for the other end of it, I feel it's important to educate our both our consumers and our B2B2C partners so that they know what's available. Because most of what we're doing is shedding light on what's actually available to make life easier, because mostly people just don't know it exists. We're not inventing anything. We're just pulling all the things that are great into one place so that you can find them. And so that education is a huge piece of that. And we find that really useful for us. So I've used continuing education as a way to market, in that professionals need to get continuing education in order to keep their licenses and credentials up. So we do a ton of that. And then online, I reach out to consumers, and family caregivers got to learn stuff all the time to take care of their family members. And so we provide that kind of content so they can get that help that they need, and then remember that came from Ask Sammy. So maybe I should go back there and find more content, products, resources, and use our site.
Yeah, so you're doing the same thing I mentioned earlier, which is just trying to raise up that community, raise up your business, and then in the end, that helps build your business, which is great as well.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Brandy, for sharing your story with us today. I hope our listeners got something out of it. And as we wrap up, why don't you tell everyone listening a little bit more about how to find you and your business, because it is unique. And if people listening want to just see what everything you just described looks like, they can go check it out.
Yeah, so come find us at asksamie.com. That's ask, SAMIE, because we're solving accessibility through mobile innovative equipment. That's what that stands for. So feel free to use the website and follow us on all the socials at Ask Sammy for our handles for everything. So that'd be great. And then if you want to connect with me, that's the best place to do it. Find me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. So everyone go check it out. And thanks everyone for joining us today. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Focal Insights Podcast. If you like this episode, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be alerted of new episodes. See you next time.